The former Speaker of Nigeria's House of Representatives, Right Honorable Umar Ghali Na'Abba, believes that one of the most significant things to happen to democracy in Nigeria is the erosion of internal democracy within many of the political parties in the land. This phenomenon, according to him, is very important, adding that Nigerians need to know the degree to which the erosion of internal democracy has helped state governors take away politics from their states, and through them, that way, they've also been rendered powerless over their own affairs. In his words, most of the questions besetting Nigeria as a country can be traced to this erosion of internal democracy in political parties. Well, to further explore this line of thought, we're now being joined from our Abuja studio by the former number 4 citizen of Nigeria, Right Honorable Umar Ghali Na'Abba, political scientist and policy strategist and former Speaker of the House of Representatives. Good morning and welcome to the program. Honorable Ghali Na'Abba, thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Dr. Rowan.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Well,
good morning, Dr. Abati.
Yes, let's go straight into it. Do we really have political parties in Nigeria? And these political parties, can we differentiate among them in terms of ideology? And will it be right to say that these political parties, there's any one of them that can talk about internal democracy?
Well, of course, there are political parties in Nigeria. I was a member of 2 of them, or 3 of them. And these 3 are the largest political parties in the country. And what is sad is that almost everything done by these political parties is in the breach as far as democracy is concerned. And that is why, because the political parties are the vehicles, you know, with which and within which leadership is recruited, we have found ourselves in this sorry situation. They have obliterated internal democracy. Today, most people cannot go through primary elections in the political parties and win or lose fairly and freely. The political parties have been hijacked, and a few people decide who contested for what within the political parties. And unknown to most Nigerians, in this process, most of the ills besetting this country emanate from this lack of internal democracy, or they are precursors to this obliteration of internal democracy. And this is this is the reason you find out that within the political parties, we have at least the larger ones that are most known to Nigerians. So many cleavages exist, and there is a general lack of trust among the membership in both parties. And Nigerians should worry, particularly that we are in this state of insecurity, and people are looking forward to 2023 to be able to elect a new set of leaders. And how that is going to happen peacefully is a subject of discussion among various serious politicians.
Well, thank you for that. But like you just mentioned, with 2023, there's a huge drive towards that time for everybody to get their PVCs, particularly the youth demographic. But there's so much more to it than go and get your PVCs, is there not? I want you to talk about how people actually end up on the ballots and the process by which we end up a lot of times with trying to vote between the lesser of 2 evils, when the choices are not particularly inspiring? You talked about the process being hijacked. Who does that hijacking? Can you give us a peek behind the veil of how candidates are actually selected, as it were, by the parties, which we can see is quite a rancorous process from the amount of court cases that ensue after party primaries?
Well, in both political parties, the governors in the states are the leaders of these parties. And at the national level, the president is the leader of the party. And that is his political party. And ab initio, some of us believed then and believe still today that this is an aberration, because each political party has a structure and there is a leadership. They are elected by the people, and that tradition must continue. But we found ourselves in a situation whereby since the beginning, that is 1999 to 2000, we have had a situation, and which still exists, whereby congresses, when they took place in the parties and where they took place, you find out that the rules are laid down in order to favor the candidates of the state governor, and at times elections don't even take place at all. And we therefore have a situation whereby state governors take control of the political parties they won election in, and they decide therefore, because most of the times what we have during primary elections are delegate elections, and they decide what delegates participate in the election, and they decide who is even elected, so that anybody who is not in the good books of the governor cannot contest and win election in the party successfully, because the governors sit down and decide who contests what, whether it is election to the House of Representatives, whether it is the State Assembly, whether it is the Senate, and whether it is chairmanship of local governments, even councillors. And in this process, or through this process, governors have hijacked politics from the people to the government houses, where normally in the last few years, you find out that people troop to the government houses for them to be anointed by the governors. So, in effect, this has obliterated internal democracy, and people cannot run and win elections in the political parties if they are not in the good books of the governors. And that is why you find out that the polity has become less vibrant, and this has affected many institutions of governance. For example, today, if you go to the state assemblies, you find out that most of the members in the state assemblies don't even know how to manage, and not to talk of even legislating. And if you go, you find out that even attendance is very, very minimal. State assemblies, even in the National Assembly, you find out that attendance is very poor these years, because a lot of members who find themselves there are there not because they're interested in going, to do legislative job, but because they're asked by their governors to go there, and once they go there, they don't know what to do. So this obliteration of internal democracy has far-reaching effects, and that is why we still have an economy that has refused to grow. The polity has refused to grow. Our political parties have not been allowed to grow. So nothing is growing in this country. We are like in a vicious circle, and that is why we have this situation where all the indices of a failed state are with us. And this is because we don't simply govern ourselves the way we are supposed to govern ourselves. We don't run our democracy the way it is supposed to be run.
Okay. Okay.
And a lot.
Oh, okay.
I'm listening to you.
I thought you wanted to say something more before I ask the next question, sir. Okay.
You may continue.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your time, sir. I mean, great point you've made. But the truth is, a lot of people will say, well, even the political parties, you've gone through like 3 political parties and you kept on leaving all of them, like you stated earlier on. That's to show you that something was missing. A lot of people are saying there's no clear ideological divisions in the political party, that the APC and the PDP are the same. That's the argument of a lot of people. So how do we even rethink what a political party should be? Or should we go the line of independent candidates in the first place to be able to strengthen our democracy? And the talk about restructuring. What's your take on these issues?
Well, the fact of the matter is that these political parties, of course, have their manifestos, and the ideology of the parties are spelled out in these manifestos. But what is happening is that today nobody talks about manifesto. And this is because I must reiterate that this issue of internal democracy has placed us in a situation where people don't ask certain questions. In the Second Republic, for example, I knew that for example, National Party of Nigeria, which was running the country between 1979 and 1983, had an ideology. They had in their manifesto this idea of housing and agriculture. And when they came on board, they embarked on mass housing, and they embarked on what they called the Green Revolution. And in my state, Kano, where the People's Redemption Party was in power, the emphasis was on rural development, rural electrification, rural water supply, and so on and so forth. And in the 4 years that that party was in power, I saw a lot of projects, witnessed a lot of projects that had to do with the rural poor, the rural masses.
Well,
there was a lot of, there were projects, so you see what is happening.
Hello, sorry to interrupt
Let me land, please.
Okay, we wanted to take a short commercial break. Okay, we'd like to take a short commercial break, and then we'll come back to you immediately. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Still with us is Right Honorable Umar Ghali Na'Abba, former Speaker of the House of Representatives of Nigeria. Well, Honorable Umar Ghali Na'Abba, sorry I had to interrupt you. We needed to take that quick commercial break. If you may just conclude your thoughts before we move on to other issues of interest.
You see, let me say briefly that the erosion of internal democracy has led to the erosion of competition. Because when you have aspirants that want to contest for any election, they compete, to become the candidate of the party at whatever level. And through this competition, you know, the intellect is constantly improved. And therefore, election is not just about going to vote. There are latent functions where a lot of things happen that are not easily visible to the people. So this competition is necessary for the growth and development of each country. That is one benefit that democracy confer on any community. And that ability, that chance, you know, to compete is lost. And therefore, because it is lost, the intellect of Nigerians, you know, in the last 20 years has been regressing. It doesn't matter what books you read. It doesn't matter what intellectual activity you are engaged in. What is important is that the polity must go along with social functions and responsibilities. And therefore, because we have lost that, and because sycophancy has become the in thing in politics, if you are sycophantic enough, you can get anything. So this desire for people to improve themselves in order to compete, you know, has been lost. People don't improve themselves because sycophancy has become the basis with which people are elected into political office or selected to go and occupy political offices. So people don't now, a lot of people don't now believe that they should improve themselves. And this is very, very dangerous for our country. So there are lots of things that we have lost. I believe that we must do whatever we can, particularly leadership that has authority, whether it is in the states, whether it's in the federal government. This idea of obliteration of internal democracy must be looked at and get Nigeria back, or get Nigerian political parties back to a situation whereby internal democracy must be strictly observed in our political parties, and sanctions must be imposed on any person who sabotages internal democracy, because we are losing a lot of things. If you look at the quality of leadership in this country from 1999 to date, you know, it has been falling. Look at the quality of leadership. Look at what we have today. And it's going to continue. It's not going to improve. So we have to take this issue very, very seriously.
So you've talked about, were you going to ask a question? It was my turn. Go ahead, Dr. Batsi.
Okay, I was going to draw your attention to the fact that you talked about having been in 3 political parties. And I can't think of any better person to comment on the crisis of internal democracy. You were in PDP. You left the PDP due to issues of internal democracy. You went to the ACN, and then later returned to the PDP. Then later you joined the APC, and then later I think you went back to all because of issues of internal democracy. And that was why I asked you originally whether indeed we have political parties in Nigeria, because these political parties, they seem to be special purpose vehicles just to grab power, to promote personal interests. Now, where did we get it wrong? Because it wasn't always like that. We had the UPN, we had the PRP, we had the MPN. Parties, you could say, at least had ideological orientation. The MPP, the GNPP in those days. But all of a sudden, we have this crisis that you have identified. How do we correct the situation? Do you have any hope that ahead of 2023, we can have proper political parties that can be properly organized for the common good?
Well, my experience and understanding, in the last 20 years is that, mercantilism has creeped into our polity, and that merchants have arrested our political system. They have captured our political system to the effect that whenever anybody seeks office, he needs to have capital, either his own capital or must be sponsored by certain people. But what is worse is that you find out that this situation has been leading us to a situation whereby there is more corruption, on a daily basis in politics, because a lot of people participate just to come and steal as much as they want and go away with it. It is very, very difficult in our circumstance, to eliminate these kinds of things. But what is sad is that these things are now the default. And because they become the default, almost many politicians in this country are getting, frustrated because they cannot participate. They are being marginalized, and they can't do anything about it because of this issue of mercantilism. So it is important that if any political leader is serious and he finds himself in office, because I have said this times without number, that Nigerians themselves need some political education.
Well, Honorable
They
Ghali
need political
Na'Abba,
education.
on that note about political education, we'd like to thank you very much for joining us this morning on the morning show. Thank you very much.